A simple woman falls asleep. On a man's shoulder, without knowing, he is a billionaire. In a coffee shop, but wakes up with him, looking at her with love, her life changes forever. In the heart of Rio de Janeiro, where the morning sun kisses the shores of Ipanema Beach, Maria lives in a modest apartment she shares with her grandmother, Sofia. At 27, she epitomizes the warmth and resilience that Brazil is famous for, working as a barista at Café Bela Vista, a cozy coffee shop nestled between luxury hotels and local boutiques. Like clockwork, she wakes up at 5 a.m. to the tune of Frank Sinatra's The Coffee Song, her grandmother's favorite reminder of when American music first swept through Rio in the 1960s. Maria gently helps Sofia with her morning medication before heading to work, her long, silky dark brown hair neatly pulled back from her face, her soft grayish blue eyes focused on her work as she moves with natural grace behind the counter, wearing a crisp white uniform that she maintains with the same care her grandmother taught her. At the cafe, Maria's hands work magic with the coffee beans, creating perfect brews that remind wealthy tourists of their favorite Manhattan coffee shops, while still maintaining that special Brazilian touch. Her regular customers say her smile is as warm as the morning sun reflecting off Ipanema's waves, but few notice the tired look in her eyes or know about her dream of owning her own little cafe someday. Between serving customers, she steals glances at the Small Business Owner magazine hidden beneath the counter, dog-earing pages about loans and business plans. The weight of her grandmother's medical bills and their modest living expenses keeps that dream just out of reach, filed away with her mother's old recipe book and the business course acceptance letter she had to decline last year. As the morning rush begins to slow, Maria doesn't know that today's shift will be different. The gentle patter of rain begins outside, and with it, Destiny is about to walk through the cafe's door, carrying a briefcase and the scent of expensive cologne. The sudden tropical rain sends well-dressed professionals scurrying into Café Bella Vista, filling every table. Maria's feet ache from the morning rush as she wipes down the counter, dreaming of her precious 15-minute break. The cafe smells of freshly ground Brazilian beans and warm pastries, reminding her of Sunday mornings at her grandmother's kitchen. That's when he walks in, tall, distinguished, wearing a tailored navy suit that speaks of Wall Street quality. Though something about him feels different from the usual business tourists. His salt and pepper hair is slightly damp from the rain, and his kind eyes catch hers for a moment as he glances around the packed cafe. "Would you mind sharing your table?" he asks an elderly American couple, his Portuguese carrying a hint of New York sophistication. They smile, wave him to the empty seat, and return to their animated discussion about their Caribbean cruise plans. Maria finally gets her break, clutching her cup of house blend as she sinks into the cafe's only couch, just an arm's length from where he sits. The rain drums steadily against the windows, creating a cozy atmosphere that makes her eyelids heavy. She fights to stay awake, thinking of the evening shift ahead and her grandmother's doctor's appointment tomorrow. Just for a moment, she tells herself, closing her eyes. The gentle rain, the warmth of her coffee cup, and the familiar cafe sounds blur together. Her head gently tilts, finding unexpected support on something firm yet comfortable, his shoulder. He freezes, his coffee cup halfway to his lips, as this beautiful young barista unconsciously uses him as a pillow. Her face is peaceful, years younger in sleep, and something in his chest tightens. Rather than wake her, he carefully sets his cup down and remains perfectly still, watching the rain paint patterns on the windows. 10 minutes pass like honey dripping from a spoon until Maria's eyes flutter open. For one peaceful moment, she snuggles closer to the wonderfully comfortable shoulder. Then, reality crashes in. Her eyes go wide with horror as she realizes exactly whose shoulder she's been using as a pillow. The next morning dawns bright and clear, washing away all traces of yesterday's rain. Maria arrives early at Café Bella Vista, hoping to avoid any reminder of her embarrassing shoulder nap incident. She's arranging fresh pastries when the little bell above the door chimes, and her heart skips a beat. It's him again, somehow looking even more distinguished in a light gray suit that reminds her of old Hollywood films. She quickly ducks behind the espresso machine, sending her coworker Julia to take his order, but he politely declines service, his deep voice carrying across the cafe. "I'd prefer to be served by the young lady who knows how to properly appreciate a good shoulder rest." A few regular customers chuckle and Maria feels her cheeks burn. Taking a deep breath, she straightens her apron and approaches his table. "I'm so sorry about yesterday, sir. It was completely unprofessional of me." He smiles, and the warmth in his eyes reminds her of the way her father used to look at her mother in old photographs. "Please, call me Gabriel," he says. "And actually, I came back to apologize for not being a better pillow." His gentle teasing puts her at ease, and soon they're discussing different coffee roasts with surprising passion. Maria finds herself sharing her knowledge about the subtle differences between Brazilian beans, her eyes lighting up as she describes the perfect roasting process. "You know," he says thoughtfully, reaching into his briefcase, "I happen to bring something special back from my last trip." He produces a small package of coffee beans, and Maria's eyes widen. She recognizes the exclusive label from a famous Panamanian estate she's only read about in magazines. "Would you like to try it?" he asks, his voice carrying a hint of something more than just coffee tasting. "I know a perfect spot in the city where we could properly appreciate it." Maria hesitates, her grandmother's warning about strangers echoing in her mind. But there's something trustworthy about Gabriel, something familiar yet exciting. As she opens her mouth to respond, she notices a familiar face watching them through the cafe window, and her blood runs cold. After her shift ends, Maria finds herself climbing the picturesque steps of Parque Lage, the old mansion's architecture reminding her of scenes from Roman Holiday, one of her grandmother's favorite films. Gabriel waits by the ornate fountain, his suit jacket now casually draped over his arm, looking more relaxed than she's seen him yet. He's set up a small coffee tasting station on a secluded bench overlooking the park's gardens, complete with professional brewing equipment that costs more than her monthly rent. "My father taught me that anything worth doing is worth doing right," he explains, noticing her wide-eyed expression at the setup. As he carefully measures the Panamanian beans, Maria can't help but admire his technique. "You're not just a casual coffee enthusiast, are you?" she asks, watching him execute a perfect pour-over. His smile turns slightly mysterious as he hands her a cup. The aroma hits her first, notes of jasmine and honey that make her close her eyes in appreciation. "This is the geisha variety," she says without hesitation, specifically from the Hacienda La Esmeralda estate. Gabriel's eyebrows raise in genuine surprise and admiration. As the golden afternoon light filters through the trees, they share stories over multiple cups of exceptional coffee. He tells her about his travels, carefully omitting details that might reveal his true status. She shares her dream of opening a specialty cafe, her eyes sparkling with passion as she describes her vision. "You know," he says softly, "I'm actually in the import and export business. Specialty coffee is one of our interests." The way he hesitates makes Maria look at him more closely. There's something he's not saying, something big. The setting sun casts a golden glow across the garden, and for a moment, they find themselves standing close, too close. His hand brushes hers as he takes her empty cup, and the air between them feels charged with possibility. Maria's heart beats faster as he leans in slightly. Suddenly, a camera flash breaks the spell. They turn to see a photographer hurrying away through the garden. Gabriel's face darkens with concern, and Maria realizes she might have just stumbled into something much bigger than a simple coffee tasting. The next morning, Maria's peaceful routine shatters when Julia thrusts a magazine in her face. "Look who's on page 6! There, under the headline, "Coffee with a Brazilian Beauty," is the photo from Parque Lage. But it's the caption that makes her coffee cup tremble. Reclusive billionaire Gabriel Montgomery, CEO of Global Investments, shares intimate moment with local barista. At home, her grandmother sits in her worn armchair, reading glasses perched on her nose, examining the same article. "Mi filha," she says softly, using the Portuguese term of endearment. "Men like him, they don't usually marry girls like us." Her words echo the same concerns Maria's mother had faced decades ago with her own romance. Back at the cafe, whispers follow her everywhere. Regular customers who once treated her like family now watch her with suspicious eyes, their hushed conversations falling silent when she approaches. "I heard he's worth billions," one elderly tourist tells her friend, loud enough for Maria to hear. Poor dear probably doesn't know she's just his Brazilian adventure. The final blow comes when a striking woman in designer clothes sweeps into the cafe. "I'm Victoria Astor," she announces, her voice carrying the polished tone of old money. "I believe you've been seeing my former companion." She eyes Maria's simple uniform with barely concealed disdain. Gabriel has a habit of finding authentic experiences when he travels. Last year, it was a geisha in Kyoto. Maria's hands shake as she wipes down tables, Victoria's words mixing with her grandmother's warnings. When Gabriel texts about dinner plans at a rooftop restaurant in Copacabana, she stares at her phone, torn between her heart and her pride. Then he appears at the cafe's door, looking worried. "Maria, about the photograph." He starts, but she cuts him off. "We need to talk," she says quietly, leading him to the back alley where they first shared stories about coffee. As she closes the door behind them, neither notices Victoria watching from her car across the street, her manicured fingers already dialing numbers that will set tomorrow's events in motion. The morning rush at Cafe Bella Vista comes to a sudden halt when Maria receives the call. Her grandmother has collapsed. Dropping everything, she races to Hospital San Francisco, her heart pounding as fiercely as her feet on the polished floor. The doctor's words blur together. Emergency surgery, heart valve, expensive procedure. But the cost stands out crystal clear, more money than she could save in 5 years. She misses her dinner with Gabriel, her phone dead in her purse as she fills out endless hospital forms. In the sterile waiting room, she clutches her grandmother's worn rosary beads, the same ones that comforted her after her mother's passing years ago. Meanwhile, across town, Gabriel paces the rooftop restaurant, his calls going straight to voicemail. Through the restaurant's windows, he catches a glimpse of a familiar figure hurrying out of the hospital entrance. Maria, looking exhausted, climbing into a taxi. His mind races to the worst conclusions. Was she ill? Was she meeting someone else? Before he can process his thoughts, Victoria materializes at his side. "She's playing you brilliantly, darling," she purrs, showing him her phone. "My private investigator found out she's been meeting with reporters, planning to sell your story to the highest bidder. Billionaire's Brazilian romance. Quite catchy, don't you think?" At his office the next morning, Gabriel's partners are concerned. "This girl could be a liability," one warns. "Remember the scandal with that investor in Singapore? We can't afford another PR nightmare." When Maria finally checks her phone, she finds it flooded with hostile messages from unknown numbers. Victoria's work. At the cafe, she overhears snippets of conversations. Gold digger, social climber, probably planned it all. The final blow comes when Gabriel's lawyer appears at the cafe, offering a check to handle the situation discreetly. Maria's eyes fill with tears as she realizes how thoroughly she's been misunderstood. With trembling hands, she rips the check in half. That evening, as she closes the cafe alone, she finds an envelope in her locker. Inside is a magazine clipping about a young Brazilian woman who allegedly scammed a wealthy American family 20 years ago. The note attached simply reads, "Like mother, like daughter." In the dimly lit hospital room, Sophia reaches for Maria's hand, her weathered fingers cool against her granddaughter's warm skin. "You remind me so much of your mother," she says softly, her voice stronger after the successful surgery. "Did I ever tell you how I met your grandfather?" Through tears, Maria listens as her grandmother reveals a story she's never heard before, of a wealthy Portuguese businessman who fell in love with a humble Brazilian seamstress in 1962. "Everyone said he was foolish, that I only wanted his money," Sophia recalls, her eyes distant with memory. "But he saw my true heart, just as I saw his." Meanwhile, across the city, Gabriel sits in his penthouse office, staring at a coffee cup from Cafe Bella Vista. His assistant enters with a thick folder, the background check he requested on Maria. As he reads, his coffee grows cold, and his heart grows heavy with shame. Hospital bills, loan applications for a small business, glowing references from elderly customers who consider her family, not a single sign of the gold digger Victoria painted her to be. A call from the hospital's administrative office confirms his worst fears. Someone has been spreading rumors about Maria using her grandmother's illness as a scheme to extract money from wealthy patients' families. His hands clench as he realizes how thoroughly he's been manipulated. In a small miracle of timing, Maria's unique coffee blend catches the attention of a famous food critic. Her phone lights up with an offer to buy her secret recipe, enough money to cover her grandmother's medical bills. But as she reads the contract, her heart sinks. She would have to give up all rights to ever use the recipe herself, destroying her dream of opening her own cafe. That evening, Gabriel watches the sunset from his office, remembering how the same golden light caught Maria's eyes in Parc Lage. He makes a decision, reaching for his phone, but before he can dial, his screen lights up with breaking news. Brazilian barista's mystery recipe sparks international bidding war. His heart races as he grabs his jacket. He knows exactly where she'll be right now, and he prays he's not too late. The evening light casts long shadows through Cafe Bella Vista's windows as Maria wipes down tables for the last time. Tomorrow she'll sign away her recipe, her dream, but at least her grandmother will be taken care of. The contract sits heavy in her apron pocket, a bittersweet reminder of what could have been. The bell chimes softly as the door opens. "We're closed," she calls out, not looking up, until a familiar voice responds, even for someone who makes a terrible pillow. Gabriel stands there, his usual polished appearance slightly disheveled, as if he'd run all the way. Before Maria can speak, he raises his hand. "Please, let me talk first." He pulls out his phone, showing her evidence of Victoria's manipulation, the fake stories, the planted rumors, even the photographer she hired. "I didn't come to apologize just for doubting you," he says, moving closer. "I came to apologize for forgetting what drew me to you in the first place. It wasn't your coffee, though it's the best I've ever had. It was your heart, Maria. The way you care for every customer like family. How your eyes light up when you talk about your dreams. The way you'd rather sacrifice everything than compromise your integrity." Tears well in Maria's eyes as he continues. "I've built an empire of hotels and businesses, but I've never met anyone who could make a simple coffee shop feel more like home than you do." He reaches into his jacket, pulling out papers. "I had my lawyers draw this up. It's a business partnership agreement, equal shares. Your recipe remains yours, and together we'll build not just one cafe, but a chain of them, each one as authentic and special as you are." Maria stares at the papers, then back at him. "I don't need a business partner," she says softly. His face falls, but then she adds with a small smile, "But I might need someone who doesn't mind being a pillow occasionally." The setting sun streams through the cafe windows as they meet in a kiss that tastes of promise and perfect coffee. Outside, Sophia watches from her taxi, smiling as she clutches a worn photo of herself and her late husband, taken in this very spot over half a century ago. "Amor verdadero," she whispers. "True love. It never goes out of style." "So," Gabriel murmurs against Maria's hair, "about that recipe of yours?" Maria laughs, the sound mixing with the familiar hum of the espresso machine. "First, you need to learn the most important ingredient, patience." And there, in the warm glow of the cafe they would soon build together, they begin their own perfect blend of a love story. 6 months later, the aroma of Maria and Gabriel's love story still wafts through the air of their newly opened cafe, True Blend, where vintage photographs of Rio's golden age adorn the walls alongside modern coffee equipment. Among them, a treasured image of Sophia and her late husband shares space with a candid shot of Maria sleeping on Gabriel's shoulder that fateful rainy day. Sophia, now fully recovered, greets customers with the same warmth she once showed in her own kitchen, sharing wisdom about love and coffee with anyone who will listen. Sometimes, she tells a group of visiting American ladies, "The best things in life, like the perfect cup of coffee, come to those who wait." In a corner booth, Maria and Gabriel steal glances at each other between serving customers, their love as rich and warm as the Brazilian coffee they share each morning. Their story proves that true love, like the finest coffee beans, knows no social boundaries. It only knows the heart. Dear viewers, we all have our own stories of unexpected love, of moments when fate brought us together with someone special. Perhaps you met your sweetheart in a diner in the 1960s, or maybe you're still waiting for your own magical moment. Share your love story in the comments below. After all, every great romance deserves to be told. Remember, love, like the perfect cup of coffee, finds us when we least expect it, but exactly when we need it most. See you next week for another heartwarming story of love across cultures.